Hey everyone, welcome back to the part 2 of this video essay. If you haven't checked out the first part, I highly encourage you to do so. As mentioned in the previous video, one of the most important parts of Sarah Braverman's character arc was her relationship with Mark Sear. After discovering that Amber had submitted an essay Sarah wrote in high school as her own, Sarah decides to confront Amber's English teacher. This is where we are first introduced to Mark. From their very first interaction, it seems to be an immediate connection between two of them. However, what makes their relationship so interesting is that Mark's attraction to Sarah wasn't purely physical. Once he learns that Sarah was the true author of the essay, he reveals that he shared a similar interpretation of the novel when he was younger. In that moment, Mark sees something in Sarah that most people around her never really acknowledged. He sees intelligence, creativity, and depth. What I love about the storyline is that it shows how two people from completely different stages of life can still connect through a shared perspective. More importantly, Mark recognizes a side of Sarah that she had either forgotten about or never fully explored. If I had to describe Sarah and Mark's relationship in one sentence, it would be this: they were the right people who met at the wrong time. By the time Sarah met Mark, she was carrying years of emotional baggage. She was recovering from an abusive marriage, raising two teenagers, and still trying to figure out who she wanted to be. Their relationship constantly faced obstacles. There, first, there was Amber, who clearly was uncomfortable with her mother dating a teacher. Then there was Drew, who never really seemed to completely be comfortable with Mark's presence in their lives and just really couldn't grasp the whole idea. On top of that, Seth's addiction and repeated reappearances continued to create tension and uncertainty. It often felt as though Mark was forced to compete with problems that existed long before he entered Sarah's life. Despite all of these challenges, they shared something that Sarah never seemed to find in any other relationships: an intellectual intimacy. Both Sarah and Mark loved books and writing. Mark was one of the few people who genuinely encouraged Sarah's creative side. When she began writing, he supported her work and pushed her to take it seriously. Later in the series, it revealed that Mark himself became a published writer, making their connection feel even more meaningful. What makes Mark's unique amongst Sarah's relationship is that he seems capable of bringing out the best version of her. More than any other partner on the show, he encouraged her creativity and helped her believe in her own potential. That's why I always felt the writer missed an opportunity with the storyline. Rather than continuing to explore Sarah's growth through writing, season 4 shifts her towards photography after she begins working for Hank. While photography still fits in Sarah's artistic personality, it always felt like another example of her inability to commit to one path long enough to truly develop it. From a character perspective, this reflects one of Sarah's biggest flaws throughout the series: inconsistency. Sarah often struggles to trust her own abilities. Whenever she begins making progress in one area, she eventually moves on to something else before giving herself enough time to succeed or fail. It isn't that Sarah lacks talent. The problem is that she really seems convinced of her own potential. Because of this, she constantly guesses herself, and changes directions. Throughout most of the series, Sarah appears to be searching for something that will finally give her confidence, when in reality, the confidence needed to come from within. This same pattern can also be seen in their personal relationships. One of the most frustrating examples occurs near the end of her and Mark's relationship. When Mark invites her to attend a friend's wedding, Sarah instead chooses to help Hank deal with the situation involving his daughter. While Sarah's intentions are good, the way she handles the situation highlights a recurring issue in her character. Rather than communicating openly with Mark and establishing clear boundaries, she immediately responds to Hank's crisis. Once again, Sarah prioritizes someone else's needs before considering the impact her decision will have on her own relationship. This is where her impulsiveness becomes destructive. Time and time again, Sarah allows immediate emotions to dictate her decisions, whether in her career or her relationships. She struggles to step back, evaluate the situation, and make choices that support her long term happiness. To Mark's credit, he remains remarkably patient throughout much of their relationship. However, patience can only go so far. Sarah's inability to establish boundaries and her tendency to constantly react to latest crises eventually create too much strain between them. In many ways, Sarah seems almost uncomfortable with stability. Whenever she gets close to building something secure, whether professionally or personally, something pulls her away from it. That's what makes her relationship with Mark feel so tragic. For perhaps the first time in the series, Sarah had someone who genuinely believed in her potential. Someone who understood her creative side, supported her ambitions, and saw a version of her that had been buried beneath years of chaos and self doubt. Yet, despite all of that, she wasn't able to fully embrace it. And that's why, even after all these years, Mark remains a relationship that feels like Sarah's greatest missed opportunity. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video essay, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll be making more videos about Parenthood and its characters in the future. Thank you.